He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. They barely tolerate one another. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Is it the case that in the narcissistic dynamic, the narcissist and the victim were the intimate partner primary source? Do they get to that point where they can barely tolerate one another? From the narcissist perspective, tolerance only exists during the golden period because the narcissism recognizes that it is worth exhibiting false compassion, false patience, false respect, etc., in order to get to the aim of securing that individual. They are painted white. Therefore, the unaware narcissist regards that person as wonderful, believes they are in love with them or falling in love with them. What they don't realize is that, in effect, this is an artifice created by their narcissism to compel them to bring that person under control. If that were not there, they wouldn't bother with this person. In effect, the narcissism makes them go after that person to secure them so that they are controlled, and the narcissist gets the fuel, the character traits, and the residual benefits. As you know, this doesn't last. And in the same way that the sun rises in the east and we're all going to die at some point, devaluation follows in the dynamic between narcissist and intimate partner primary source. Accordingly, that tolerance becomes eroded as a consequence of the fuel becoming stale and or the victim proving more difficult to control. The consequence then is that the supposed patience that existed evaporates, and the narcissist looks on that individual with a revised view, a devaluing view. They're painted black, and what was once loved is now hated. What was once admired is now despised, and accordingly, tolerance has gone. But it also can work in the other direction as well, because a victim who finds themselves placed upon that pedestal and then cast down into the dirt and devalued may also find that their patience for the narcissist, their tolerance, becomes exhausted and evaporated. And therefore, it is entirely conceivable that both narcissist and victim can barely tolerate one another any longer. The narcissist, because of the way that their narcissism is operating by painting the victim as black, the victim because they've simply had enough of being mistreated by the narcissist. It is accurate to state that it is the narcissist tolerance that disappears first. The victims, if it does happen, because it doesn't always, but with the victim, their tolerance becomes eradicated after that of the narcissist. Thus, that is the dynamic which could be applicable to this one's wife and Harry. Certainly, because he's been in the sustained devaluation for a number of years, her patience and tolerance towards him disappeared a long time ago, only reinstated when respite periods come along. But what about Harry? Is it the case that he can't tolerate his wife now, as he had enough of her attention-seeking behaviours, her unpleasantness towards him, the way that she's ostracised him from his friends and family? Well, according to something called Celebrating the Soaps, an article doesn't hold back with regard to its venomous view of the gruesome twosome. The report by Tanya Clark tells us, British royal family news divulges that Prince Harry and his starter wife, bit of snark straight from the off there, his starter wife, this one's wife, have finally shown their four faces together again in a video for the inaugural Global Ministerial Conference on Violence Against Children, see parts passim. They look clean and groomed, and if Harry got a tat during his escape to New York City last month, he's not showing and telling. In the video, the couple rail against the dangers of freedom of speech. This one's wife no doubt reminding herself internally that she's the most bullied person in the world. Again, this writer clearly has no love whatsoever for the gruesome twosome. But she's not wrong about the fact that, in essence, this one's wife would remind herself internally that she's the most bullied person in the world, because her narcissism will tell her that as part of her ongoing victim mentality and grandiosity. She's not just bullied, she's the most bullied person in the world. The drop comes on the heels of wild speculation about the unemployed couple who ditched the monarchy for financial freedom. The rumour mill is lit that they have now ditched each other, that Harry is in rehab, that this one's wife is living alone in Santa Monica, and that this one's wife will soon sell her jam in a mall near you. We'll leave it up to the traitors to clear up any confusion that exists surrounding their fairy tales. In the meantime, they are busy selling themselves as rental royals. The past few months they've been busy touring foreign countries such as Nigeria and Colombia. This one's wife is 43% Nigerian, and they could not resist the invitation of a Nigerian money launderer who reportedly sent his private jet to ferry them to her motherland. In Nigeria, this one's wife was made a princess, and Harry called the people his in-laws. Next up, they jaunted off to Colombia, after a senior politician fangirled over this one's wife's performance in the couple's reality show on Netflix, This One's Wife and Harry. Some pundits theorise that the traitors are trying to make a name for themselves separate from the royal family, while others point to their dog and pony show as an example of how far one can fall in life and continue to bark and bite. In the video released on November the 7th, 2024, Harry and this one's wife stand stiffly side by side, in suits with red poppies attached. All that show of supposed piety does is remind us of how they trampled all over the LA Veterans Memorial Cemetery with a camera crew after being frozen out of the royal family's Remembrance Day commemoration. If they are trying to separate themselves from whence they came, this one's wife would have been better off in her tacky red dress with the slit up to there, with Harry modelling her latest American Riviera Orchard dog collar. Well, this person certainly doesn't hold back in their clear contempt for this one's wife and Harry, managing to get in a number of blows with regard to their behaviour, and I'm sure that you will agree with those observations. But what the article does do is enable me to explain the position of tolerance between narcissist and victim, and how that does become eroded. It means that this one's wife will be short on patience with Harry. She will be snippy with him. She will be sharp with him. She'll likely shout at him. She'll roll her eyes. She'll tell him off. She won't want to listen to what he has to say. This tolerance is representative of the fact that he is painted black. And the fact that she once was tolerant of him was simply something that was created by the narcissism. The tolerance only exists to the extent that you are giving the narcissist what they want. It's not because the narcissist is inherently tolerant or patient. Indeed, narcissists are notoriously impatient, always being driven by their narcissism to get what they want. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.